So, Miss Amy, what are you doing today?
I am planting seedlings, or planting seeds for this coming season. So today I'm planting a second succession set. So over here I have some asparagus beans and some Fennel squash. I've got a couple varieties of tomatoes. I've got broccoli, sweet peppers, and a bunch of Swiss chard. And I'm attempting to get some herbs to grow, but that's a challenge. But I have some coming up. And then I'm doing a second set of vegetables as well. I ran out of my little peat pot, so I had to order some more. And naturally, they were about a week and a half delayed. So they're here, and so now I'm planting my second set. And what is it right now? It's February 21st, so I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay. I'm undeterred. I'm going to do it anyway.
So why don't you tell us about what you're growing in here?
Well, so these big old wonderful things are asparagus beans. Can't really grow asparagus here because we're 8B, but the beans grow fine. And we picked them up, these seeds, from the amazing, let me show you this, Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. This website, I just can't say enough good things about them. They give you great descriptions on how to grow and germination and where in the south these plants will grow. So I can't say enough good things about Southern Exposure.
That's fine. So
this is a document I created for my beginning gardening course for not only the students but for myself. And so I write the plant names down, in, out, which means am I going to plant it inside or outside, and you can see I have other little notes in here, the number of plants that I'm started, and then because today I'm doing a second set, I'm columning this myself. Days to germination, so days to emerge, so I know how many days it takes before I should be able to actually see seedlings.
So from the time you planted it to how long till they start popping through the soil?
Till they start popping through the soil, exactly. And then the harvest date, I need to continue to fill this out. That's my intention, is to fill out the days to emerge, and then also to fill out the harvest dates. And then these harvest dates I will actually put in my calendar, so I know 80 days from January 31st, I'm going to be able to pick my asparagus beans. In theory, there's always, give and take to that.
So what's in the next tray then you got going here?
So I'm going to start a kitchen herb garden this year. So over here I have some basil that I also picked up from Southern Exposure Seed, or from Southern Seed Exchange. And here's fennel. You can see my parsley didn't make it. My savory didn't make it. I think I have one microscopic little mint, two microscopic little mints down in here. So not all of them made it. So this morning I'm planting a second succession of some of these veggies. And then I'm going to plant another succession of my herbs and see if I can't get those to grow for me.
And what do you got going over here?
So this is my second succession started. So I planted some more asparagus beans. I've started some squash today. So here is a butternut squash, and somewhere in here, pumpkin right here. Mm-hmm. So this is the sugar pumpkin, and these seeds came from a friend of ours who grow their own organic sugar pumpkins, and so that's a huge gift that they just gave me a pumpkin, and I was able to dry my own seeds out last fall, and so I'm using those to grow this year. The butternut squash came from Southern Exposure, and then I have some more Swiss chard because I eat a ton of Swiss chard for lunch as a salad, and then some more basil, and I'm going to try to get some more rosemary, chives, mint, etc. growing. I may move them to pots instead of the peat pots, to actual growing pots, and see if they do better there.
All right.
Yep. So that's what I'm working on today, is getting another succession going. Oh, and I also have from our local Ace Hardware, they have seed potatoes. So I'm going to start some seed potatoes. I don't have the bed ready for the seed potatoes, but I'm going to take some pots and I'm going to start growing these in some pots because I don't want them to go bad while they sit in the bag.
What kind of potatoes are they?
These look like what, little yellow potatoes?
I don't know. I think the bag says Yukon Yukon
Does it say,
Gold.
oh, it does say Yukon. Well, there you go. Yeah, so Yukon Gold, and you can see that they're starting to seed, which is wonderful. It's exactly what we want. So, and I got this whole bag from Ace Hardware for $5,
Okay.
which I'm pretty excited about because when I looked online, these things were, $10 for a bag, plus, $7, $8 for shipping. So I'm pretty excited that these were available.
Great.
Yep.
Well, wonderful.
Yep. That's what I'm doing today. Planting all my seeds out.
Okay, Miss Amy, what are you holding in your hand?
So
It looks dangerous.
yes, don't tell my husband, but he bought me this super fabulous hori knife for Christmas, and I'm using it to cut these potatoes. Now, should I be using a real knife? Probably, but this thing is so much fun, I just have to use it. So I'm looking, so when you cut seed potatoes, you want 2 eyes. So what you're trying to do is kind of spread out the potatoes so you have more to grow. So in some of these cases, I only have 2 eyes on the one side of the entire potato, so I'm going to leave that whole. This one only has 1 eye, but this guy, right, you can see I cut him up because he has 3 eyes over here. And I think this was his other little piece. No, this might have been his other little piece. So you can see that there are some eyes there. So I'm cutting them up, and then what I'm going to do is let them harden overnight. This side, I want this side to kind of harden up because then it won't get moldy in the pot. So I'm cutting them up there. I'm going to cut this one in half with my fancy little hori knife.
And that works pretty well for that?
It works really well for that.
Does it have an edge on a knife or something?
It's very sharp. Don't give this to your 5-year-old. And see, it actually has some, it weighs, it's pretty hefty. So you can see it has...
it's serrated edge there.
It does, so serrated. And then I'm a lefty, as you all can see. So it's easier, it's harder for me to, depending on how I angle this, but you can see it has the measurements in here: 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, up to 6 inch, and that's pretty amazing because that tells you how you can use this for digging, and so you can see
and
how
for planting depth, right?
Exactly. So if I'm planting my seeds and I need to go down 1 inch, say, then I know how far an inch is, which is pretty darn cool. And this thing is pretty. What's the word I'm looking for? It's hardy. It's pretty hardy, and they're pretty well known in the gardening world. But yeah, it's got a pretty tough edge there. It'll be great for weeding. I've used it to cut some of my cabbage already off, and some of the harder plants like kale. If you let kale grow too much, it gets pretty woody, and so I've been able to cut the woody parts of the kale with this without a problem. Oh, my rosemary too. It cut my rosemary. It took a little bit of work, but it cut my rosemary as well, because rosemary can get pretty woody. So there you go, my fancy hori knife, and doing seed potatoes.